All right, and it looks like we are live. My name is Mr. Deadman. I am the host of the Deadman's live show. I'm also the man behind Deadman's Tome. What is Deadman's Tome? Well, I guess I'll let the guests take care of that real quick. What is the Deadman's Tome to y'all?
It is a horror e-zine that features authors in a new and interesting way, with regular content, and it pushes boundaries. So for me, that's what it is.
Yeah, I like the idea that it pushes the boundaries a little bit, switches things up just a little bit.
It's nice to see a lot of new stories, things that are outside the norm of what you normally see published on a lot of other zines.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And and to be very frank with you guys, like, or y'all, every now and then I'll do a Google search and see what the atmosphere, what not the atmosphere, what the landscape is for horror zines, and oh, sometimes it's like you see a lot of them that close down here and there, and that's kind of my inspiration for this was to have something that lasts, and to provide for the longevity. This is the shilling part. See, Deadman's Tome offers authors a instead of paying for a fixed rate or whatever, they get paid based on the number of views, comments, and likes for the story. And the point of this is when all the stories post, everyone's going to have the same thing. I want to spread this out. And you better believe it, that's my goal too. I want to spread this out. I want to spread this out because that's the only way the site's going to grow. Either that or through like me paying for like high ads or whatever, spending a lot of money like that, which is a gamble and all that stuff. But I find it most more effective to connect with people to go through that way because like what I found is when I tell my friends and their friends tell their friends, or when y'all tell your family and they tell their friends, that it spreads much more organically. So we
Definitely.
get people to actually read it and not just a bunch of hits that would never come back, you know.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah,
have
and
lost so many e-zines this year too. I mean, we've had several really big ones close down, and it was so sad to see. And I think it's largely like the Amazon marketing platform has changed, and like it's harder with ebooks and even with print books to make a profit. And so we're seeing a lot of
It
magazines close, even the most famous ones.
it is, and I do see that horizon there. That it does seem really hard to make a profit, to make money, and that's the bottom line of this part is that look, in order for me to really pay you guys what y'all need, like, and obviously I'm not asking y'all to buy the shirts or be a Patreon or anything like that. That's really for the fans, for the readers. Deadman's Tome offers a T-shirt, a shirt. Um, the link is going to be in the description box. It's also on the site. You can check it out. It's a pretty slick looking shirt. It's black, has the emblem on it. Pretty simple. The money will help go for my drinking habit, my drug habit, but also will then go to the authors, right? You gotta take care of priorities.
Books are our drugs, man.
Yeah, books are
Stories.
my
Stories are our drugs.
drugs.
I,
That's
I
right.
don't know. I'm
Yeah.
pretty hooked on food, but it's one of those things. But yeah, what you're saying, the whole platform of it is fantastic. The idea of it gets the authors involved with the fan base too. When you're going out there, when you're actively promoting your story and saying, "Hey guys, look at what I wrote. Look at what this guy here wrote or this girl here wrote. Look at everything we've got to offer you now, and you're missing out if you don't go right this minute and read these stories."
That's
Right.
exactly right. That's great. That's a good way to put it.
And how many e-zines actually depend on hits uh, and likes and comments to make the author's money?
I don't. I can't think of any. The most common way to pay out is based on the number of words you put in the story, and I see the payouts. I mean, the professional sites. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. They do pay more than I could pay. I
Right.
mean,
You're still not going to make money with this.
But at the same time, I think that limits what they're able to take because they have to take things that are a lot more mainstream and they have
yeah,
to take things that aren't going to offend people and they pass over on a lot of really good experimental stories because they just feel like the market is too niche. And so you miss out on a lot of the really valuable content and diversity that you would have with a marketing system like this.
Yeah, a lot of the sites, especially the pro-paying markets, the ones that qualify for, I think it's the Sci-Fi Writers Guild, things like that, Horror Writers Guild, the ones that pay out those professional rates and have those credits, they're very closed off in what they're actually willing to accept and what they're willing to publish for people. They want more like it's like finding some of these great web series and movies on YouTube and just scouring the internet. The independent stuff is oftentimes a lot better written, but low budget because places willing to pay to get the big budget want to draw in that general audience. They're not aiming at horror fans, sci-fi fans, romance fans. They're aiming at your wallet. I mean,
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right.
And by the same token, I feel like, oh, so I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh,
But
no,
I
no,
feel
you're
like
fine.
you end up reading the same story over and over. Like the content ends up being really repetitive because they want that like carbon copy of Stephen King or that like carbon copy of Dean Koontz. Then you end up with this really repetitive storytelling and really repetitive style that I think is kind of a shame in some of the pro markets.
Yeah, and really, it sounds like the writing is going to be on the wall for them to see how long they will even be able to survive. Hopefully, I mean, for the sake of the market, hopefully they do. I mean, things are changing, things are tough. I mean, the only real way Deadman's Tome makes money is through the shirt, which I think is on the screen now, and through the anthologies, which will be coming out. The first one will be coming out in July, so that's it. I mean, like the ad revenue, there aren't any ads on the site. I mean, I guess like I could do that, but like that's distracting. I walked down that path before, and I don't want to go there. But with that said, man, I enjoy the. I feel like you guys are giving me a lot of praise on this new, just weird and kind of different direction. I'm kind of curious to see how other magazines see this. They probably I don't even know if I'm even a blip on the radar. But you know what?
There's some really good stuff on this site.
This year, oh thanks. This year is just a way to get to know the authors. Here we have Dan Lee. Yeah, I'm going to stop presenting this real quick. That way you can. All right, so we have Dan Lee. He's the guy in the hat. He is the author of Schrodinger's Dilemma. Then we have Gary L. Robbe. Robbe. Man, I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names. I'll tell you that right now. Gary L. Robbe, the author of. Okay, this is a long title, but my 1963 Ford Galaxy and the Maniacs of Dearborn County. That title right there. That when I read that sounded like something that came from like a B movie, from like one of those exposition films. Like, man, I'm going to get into that. So don't worry, I'm going to get into that, into the thick of that. And then we have Sarah. All right.
It's Doebereiner.
Sarah
Doebereiner. Yes.
Doebereiner.
And I'm the pink-haired one in the picture, obviously.
Yeah, which, by the way, that picture, that gentleman looks kind of familiar. He's not someone I've spoken to before, right? No?
I don't think so. His name is Seth, but he doesn't write anything. Yeah.
He looks like another individual that submitted to Deadman's Tome before under the name of Corey Niles, but I guess maybe it's a doppelganger.
Yeah, it could be like a weird twin kind of thing. Yeah, he doesn't write. He doesn't read either. He hates both.
Oh.
It's a bleeding shame, I know.
Oh, that's sad. Well, your story's entitled Candied.
Mm-hmm.
That story was, well, to say it was delightful. I like the way it ended. I mean, I like the it's like you see like this innocent, sweet, innocent old lady, but what she's doing, when you realize what she's doing, it's like, oh my god. So we'll get into that. All right, so the first one in the room, the first guest here, we'll go with Mr. Lee, Dan Lee. All right, so tell us a little bit about your story.
Schrodinger. Let me see if I can talk first. Schrodinger's dilemma. It's yeah, basically my thoughts about the physics theory, the thought theory there about the cat in the box. You know, it's not alive, it's not dead until you open the box and see which one. And it's more applied to the zombie apocalypse. You know, there's guy goes out and digs up a box out of the woods that he helped his brother bury a couple of months back. Little drunk driving accident that resulted in a need to hide the evidence. So he brings it home. He starts having a couple of beers, just thinking about it, wondering what it actually means for the body in the box. Is it alive? Is it dead? Is it neither? Is it something else?
Yeah, I mean that's Schrodinger's cat, right? That's that whole idea. Like, so something can exist in two different states, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
One of the things that I liked about this, because I did actually read that story in prep for this, and one of the things that I liked about it was, I mean, that theory was originally given as a way to kind of discount the physics, right? As far as I understand it, like as a way to make a commentary on it.
Yeah,
so
I read about that. I read about that this morning, actually. I was like, man, I want to read a little bit more about this.
Definitely. But then what I liked about it was I liked how then you pull in the psychological aspect of the characters, and you had the characters where in their mind they knew what happened and it was kind of already set. But then you get that like twist at the end and you're not really sure. And so it is kind of a way to pose the question like, how valid is the theory? How does the physics play into it from like an emotional context? So I thought that was really interesting as I was reading it.
Yeah, I was wanting to focus on seeing that their understanding of reality. I mean, something like that. Whenever you hear about something like that happening, it just completely destroys the reality of the people involved. And then to suddenly see the world falling down around you, you know, there are dead people left and right walking up and down the street. So now that already shattered reality, you've got to call it into question about what you've done and what you're about to find.
Definitely.
So that poses another question. So in your story, I mean, it's hinted that there are dead people walking around. Now, when you read it, you can see that is that a figure of speech? Like, what are they saying here? What's going on? Like, is there some sort of
Yeah, you could take.
How are there dead people coming out?
Yeah, it was sort of a. I was sort of thinking, you know, the guys they did this, you know, they buried this box, they buried the body in it, you know, right there, and then tried to go back about their lives, and then here comes the end. You know, there's a disease. Is it some sort of drug? Are people really getting up and walking around now that they're dead? And you know, the whole.
Okay, well that does put an interesting spin on it, because with the Schrodinger's cat, it's like either way, one way or another, the cat's gonna be, I mean, eventually dead because it's gonna starve to death, right? So this girl, which by the way, who was it that ran into the girl? It was I've written his name down. Roger. Roger, being a shitty driver, ran into this girl, right? Is that what I understand?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Little brother, the whole big brother mentality. You know, he goes to Steven in the middle of the night, says, "You got to help me fix this." And cleaning up, you know, messes, fixes it for him.
And that I liked the juxtaposition between the reaction of the two characters. I mean, obviously, the one brother just goes about his life and kind of forgets about it and continues on despite everything that's happening. But the other one is so haunted and he can't escape it and he can't let it lie and he needs the truth to come out. And I thought that kind of way that they dealt with the trauma was really interesting.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted with this. I wanted it to just sort of be that, this reckless individual. There's somebody that's always been fixing his mistakes, and he has this opportunity now to finally take off, and he tosses it aside and goes back to his old ways. His brother just can't do it. And then when this all starts, when the world starts falling apart, he sort of feels like maybe this is a sign, maybe this is justice being done for what I helped him cover up.
So then you have to ask yourself if the real cat in the box is really like humanity at the end. Like, will you open that box and is humanity remained intact, or have they lost their soul, so to speak? Like at the end of days.
Oh, that is pretty deep. Because in a way, yeah, they did. Like the two brothers, like you said, the one went on, and the one's kind of torn. So he definitely felt that. But then you have the other part where the dead are actually coming up. Now, I don't know if the dead are coming back to life because of this event. Which I was like, man, is there like America's Most Wanted, or like with the dead? Do they like? And this is the last straw. We cannot let this girl be buried alive, and just we cannot let that be. We're gonna come up and get these guys.
And how I interpreted was that the dead coming back to life was all in his head, actually.
I thought that too. And see, and that is the joy of short stories, how like you can add into it. But the man is here. Let's see. What is it?
Yeah.
What's the answer?
Literal or figurative?
Gotta know, man. This is like that cat in the box.
I
Can't be
see,
both.
and that's the thing, though. It can be both. It can be neither. That's the whole beauty of it. Like somebody was telling me once about that meme that I've seen before. The English teacher reads the line, the curtains were blue, and sits there and gives this long description about how the blue curtains are a symbol. The curtains were fucking blue.
I've seen that
So
one.
I just want it to be like I know when I wrote it, the way that I saw it, the way that I understood it and took it to be, and I don't want to say, it's definitely this way, because honestly, I like what I've heard. I like that question still lingering at the very end.
Yeah, I mean, it is a pretty big question. I mean, you made it to where the story itself is it's the paradox. It's like, what is this? Is this I mean, are these guys just going crazy? Is this like a figure, the product of his madness, that he can't handle the stress? That, I mean, he buried a dead girl. I mean, at least maybe she wasn't even dead. She was like knocked out. They buried her alive, or maybe dead.
Yeah.
I mean, so this isn't by any chance based on a real story, right?
No.
Okay.
Most certainly not one that I would admit to on a live broadcast. So.
Okay, so like I shouldn't come to you if I have a problem, right?
No.
Okay.
There
Scratch
are.
your name off the list there.
I got you, man. Hit me up over here. I got you.
Oh, okay. Well,
I know the problem with all the acreage, but we're not gonna go beyond that.
You know, we're all on like the Big Brother watch list anyway, right? Because of our Google searches have us. Like, how long does it take to suffocate in a refrigerator?
The NSA is watching us right now.
Yes, they are. They're loving it.
From just the stories I've read on here, You know, I can guarantee everybody in this podcast tonight is probably on at least one watch list.
Did y'all read that new story that I posted?
I haven't had a chance yet.
Confession? Wow, like, see,
Not ready yet.
Confession. It's pretty much children are being killed like left and right, but by their mom. But it's not just like, okay, when you read it, like, you have to read it. I know some publications say, don't publish anything that has like children being this or that. It doesn't spend any time talking really about. It doesn't go into detail about how they died. It just one line. So very very simple, but very dark, obviously. So that is probably the darkest thing the site has ever seen. And I really don't think anything can compete with that. But I'll see. And if that doesn't put me on the map, I don't know what will. But
Yeah, I'm going to have to go and read that now as soon as we're done, because
it's fucking dark. It is fucking dark. Like,
Hey, extreme horror is kind of getting its foothold with American Horror Story and all that. I mean, more extreme pieces are starting to kind of be acceptable.
and hopefully reading gets on the rise too, because I mean, like, it seems like who really reads much anymore? I mean, even you admit, Sarah, your husband doesn't even fucking read.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. He reads like scientific journals. He's that type.
I swear to God, like that picture, that's not Mr.
Maybe he's like living a double life and like
I
secretly.
swear to God, that looks like the same dude I talked to.
that sounds like a story in and of itself right there. He's, mild-mannered man, family. At night, though, he's out there doing things to write these terrifying stories.
There you go.
Yeah. Now we know what he's actually doing while he's sitting there listening to you do this podcast. He's scribbling down notes, making up a plan of action for what he's going to do tonight once you go to sleep.
Yeah, sleep well.
All right. Another thing. All right. So another thing on your story. I want to say, is that normal for, like, if you really want your brother's attention, you're just gonna like go for your revolver and shoot him in the fucking leg? Is that what you were gonna do? Because, like,
I mean,
that escalated completely.
It did and it didn't, because I mean, you're talking about they buried a little girl in a box 2 months ago to keep him from getting in trouble for a DUI. This has been brutal, and you add alcohol and the end of the world to that. I think because he's not getting the point across that he really needed to, that violence was the next option. He wasn't letting him walk out of there without facing what he'd done.
I see. And he was the first victim, right? I mean, he was the first one to go, and I guess after that, everything else. I mean, it just makes it seem like everything else is going to fall apart, or maybe not.
Well, it does make you wonder if the second brother, presumably the surviving brother, I mean, how far does that guilt extend? Because he was an enabler, he was an accomplice.
Yeah.
So does he feel like his own fate should also be to go that way, or is he planning to spare himself that terrible Walking Dead fate? I mean, it makes you wonder where, like, in the next scene, like, how his story resolved.
Right. What will happen?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Those are some of the best stories, though, that make you wonder what happens to the characters after, or what came before. I mean, it really makes you invested in the character. Like, man, I really want to know, like, if that guy just popped himself in the head, or if his brother ate him, or if the little girl ate him, or what happened to that guy.
Man, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking he popped himself in the head. But
then he's spared the horrible fate, and does he deserve that? Because he obviously feels terrible guilt over what happened. So would he want to punish himself?
If he's willing to raise a zombified girl, sure. But he would have to, like, take her out for feedings and change her clothes. You got to keep her presentable. Come on, you can't just have her all dirty.
Yeah, I mean,
they presumably don't starve to death, so you wouldn't have to feed them. They'd be ravenous all the time anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't see that as being different from having a real kid, though. They're always hungry.
That is true. Except this one, when you take the Chuck E. Cheese, you don't really have to worry about spending money on pizza, because she's just going to eat all the other fucking kids. Oh.
Well, I mean, that's like taking
I mean,
any-
realistically, you should probably pull the teeth out. Realistically, I think.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what I would do.
That would be smart. No one's going to question that, but people will question a missing jaw. So
That's true.
don't bust the jaw and don't cut the arms like Michonne, because that's, come on, they'll look at that and be like, what is this guy doing to this little girl? And next thing you know, you're arrested for like murder and stuff like that.
And well, and actually, like in
Yeah.
a recent story that I did a lot of research on dog raising and things like that. And you could actually like shove an instrument down their throat and bust their vocal cords, so then like she wouldn't be moaning and all that stuff. Like she wouldn't like draw that attention to herself about the lack of vocalization. So I'd probably also like destroy the voice box pretty immediately.
You read some good stuff.
I mean, just saying, like that just.
So you are the person to go to if I
I may be
problem.
keeping a zombie like in my basement right now, so
you don't say. Wow.
you can't see it. It's mine.
Oh. Well,
and we're now
what other
Yeah.
things do you? Oh, I'm sorry. What other things do you do with that zombie?
Me personally?
I'm sorry. I
What?
couldn't.
Go ahead. Dan, this is your story. You go ahead, Dan. This is you.
Hey, you go ahead, Dan. Mr. Lee.
Big hand over the speaker right at that time to catch my phone. I didn't hear what you said.
We're talking about my pet zombie.
Kid did that for the zombie walk one year. Yeah, it's I mean, you can train them like Bub in Day of the Dead, you know, answer the telephone, fetch you a beer, you know, better than any guard dog to keep kids out of your yard, I'll tell you that.
Fucking A, dude. Fucking A.
But the smell, man. What do you do about the smell?
Oh, you just Febreze that shit. A bunch of Febreze.
Hose them down with Febreze, stand them out in the yard in the wind for about 10 minutes, it'll be fine.
we got to market, guys. Rotten flesh Febreze.
Eventually,
Yeah.
you gotta get used to it, right? I mean, like the guys that run like the garbage and the sewers. I mean, eventually they have to adjust. I would think. I don't know, but I don't know what Sarah's doing with a zombie in her basement, though.
I don't know.
I hear that rigor mortis. I mean, I don't think a zombie would ever quit, and there's all sorts of things you could do. But maybe that's just my dirty mind.
No, it's character research.
Oh, character research. So whenever you produce a zombie novel or story or whatever, it's based on research, actual research.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, just as a little plug-in, Far Horizons, the publication, is going to release a zombie anthology called Forever Hungry. And I have a zombie story in that, just as a little plug there.
Congratulations.
All right. It's awesome.
Awesome.
And you know it's legit because she has a zombie in the basement. So she does
Totally
studies on
legit.
it. She's not bullshitting when she tells her zombie story. It's based on fact.
Written by an expert.
Damn straight.
I
All right.
love zombies so much.
Well, we'll probably get to zombies later on because of Gary, your story.
Yeah.
My 1963 Ford Galaxy and the Maniacs of Dearborn County. I swear, when I read that, I was like, okay, I could see this having like one of those like awesome looking like B-movie like posters. It really does. It really needs to have like the front of that car, that beast of a car, just and like I don't know if they're zombies or they're just like crazy people or what's going on, but that's what I love about it. I know I'm just saying things before you could say things, but like what I love about it was that it's all trippy. It's like in the dude's head. It's like, is
Yeah,
he
it
the
might be.
fucking maniac or what?
Right. Maybe he is the maniac. Right.
So what's the background with that story? What's going on?
The title came first, and the story came. Literally, just wrote itself. Once the title popped in my head, and I just went with it. My very first car was actually a 1963 Ford Galaxy, so I knew the car intimately.
You did.
And I wanted to base it in the early 60s, and in the paranoia, 1950s.
The Red Scare.
Yeah, the whole thing. Them, the body snatchers, all that stuff. But
Well, definitely.
Fun story to write.
It was a fun story to read. When I saw the title, I was like, man, I don't know how this will work with WordPress. Like, is this title going to get cut off or what? And I was like, I was going to ask you, can I shorten this down? But I was like, no, this title works.
Yeah,
And
it was one of those. Yeah, I'm not sure that I meant for the maniacs to be zombies, but that did actually cross my mind. But I wanted it very unclear whether everything was really happening in his head and he was a serial killer maniac himself, or
yeah,
whether
because
it was a apocalyptic. There's no doubt that there was some kind of apocalyptic event, but who was really crazy and who was sane?
it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Mad Max with some Fear and Loathing, Las Vegas, with a bit of maybe a little bit element of the crazies, but it was just out there.
If you ever read a great short story that was very influential to me many years ago by Harlan Ellison called A Boy and His Dog.
Boy and His Dog. I haven't read that, but I read it down.
Read that story. They made a movie about it. It didn't do justice to the book or the story, but it's a great story. But it has same type of ending to it, where the boy has to choose between a dog and a girlfriend.
Oh, does he choose a dog?
He chooses the dog in the end.
Oh,
Spoilers.
Wow,
hold on. Not to be sexist here, but what sort of girlfriend is this? Are we calling the girlfriend a dog, or what's going on here?
It's surrealism.
Like that.
What are we talking about? we got a woman in this chat room. Or we got to be careful.
I would probably take the dog over a woman.
That's true. The story is a very bizarre story, but it's worth reading if you can. But anyway, I wanted to show you. I'm drinking a Zombie Dust.
Zombie Dust.
You can see the label. I'm giving a plug to the Three Floyds Brewery here.
That's pretty cool. I got a 6-pack for the story. I was like, man, I wasn't joking. I know I said a 6-pack and a bottle of Jack, but the bottle of Jack I don't have, but the 6-pack I do.
Yeah.
So, Gary, I gotta say, I loved a couple of parts of this story way more than I probably should. Continuing to talk about the spacious trunk and the bodies that were in there. That very first maniac that runs up to the window and he talks about putting him in the trunk, or did it get out of the trunk? But then later on, the maniac woman standing in the road spouting her nonsense and then charging at him. I mean, that put a real image in my head.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's based on again on a true story of fitting a lot of my friends in the trunk of my Galaxy to sneak in the drive-in. So that part of it's true. It could really hold a lot of people. So I would imagine it could hold a lot of maniacs.
And I would imagine it would hold a lot of bodies.
Yes.
So for those that are listening, this show is very important, very informative for if you don't want to end up with a Netflix documentary of how to make a murderer, you need to listen to us so that way you're never really caught. Hopefully.
We will be.
Or
not really. It's all fiction. We're talking about fiction. I mean, yeah,
Totally
you can store bodies in a car. Who doesn't know that? But how many bodies can you run over with a Ford Galaxy?
Well, it had bench seats, so you could, once the trunk overflowed, you can put them in the back seat too. So.
Oh yeah, you could stack them.
Yeah.
Now, see, I know you tested the trunk with real experience, but have you tested how many people you can run over with experience?
Not that I can remember.
Good answer.
That goes into the research part of it.
Research. And also about the research. Was
According
this
to Dan, it's only one, because then there's a little girl in a box.
Yeah, true.
was this
Well,
story?
not as precious as the trunk of a Ford Galaxy. I mean, it's just, well, it depends on the box, I guess, but mostly little box is fine.
Yeah, you know what? We have another dilemma here because in that trunk there's maniacs who could, it may not be dead. They may or may not be dead.
That's right.
Uh,
You can kind of blend the two stories, actually.
yeah, you think about it.
But even you have to
No,
wonder at some point if it's even happening at all, or if he's just in a straitjacket rocking in a corner somewhere. I mean, you have to wonder if it's a totally surreal like experience happening.
yeah, that's one thing I thought too.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, since he wakes up in the back seat of his car when the change happened, and I was like, what the fuck was he doing in the back seat of the car? And like, that's a crazy party. Like, what happened there? And and then it happens. Like, so what happens?
I definitely wanted to keep that unclear as to what happened and how it happened. But
The mystery.
I wanted to make it clear that something did happen.
Mhm.
It still could be in his head, but something happened.
Because the whole time he's going around killing these maniacs, and Katie, is all like, no, you shouldn't do that, and maybe they're just scared like we are. She seems
Yeah.
to have a lot of problems with it, which is like, well, then maybe he's the one who's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the nice things. Like one of the quotes slash memes that I like that's going around is like every antagonist is a protagonist in their mind. Like every villain is a hero in their own head. And so like I liked how there was some kind of outward opposition because then you're like, really, okay, no, this person obviously thinks what they're doing is correct, but that doesn't make it correct. And it does, as a reader, make you doubt everything as you're reading.
Right.
It really
He's
does.
going to justify what he did, what potentially is going to happen to her just by not wanting to be alone or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, and he makes it very clear that the car itself, it's more a I don't want to say family to him, but he has a bigger emotional attachment in the Ford than he does the girl sitting in the passenger seat.
right.
He makes that very clear. It's like it's what he's hanging on to try and keep himself sane throughout all of this. The never-ending stretch of Dearborn County, the maniacs that are throwing rusted cars and body parts in the road. The girl that can't seem to make up her mind whether she wants him to kill the crazies or just let them inside so they can join them.
Right. And maybe the car is the protection factor for him. Who knows? But I purposely wanted to make it pretty ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
And that you did. You did a great job. Now, one thing I'm concerned about is your survival skills when a zombie or maniac apocalypse does occur, because he only had like a basket of food and beer. Is that right? And what kind of beer did he have? Like what are we talking about here? Zombie dust?
What? I didn't catch that. Again, repeat that.
Oh, I'm saying I'm concerned about your survival skills as dealing with zombies and maniacs. So what would you do? What would you do?
What would I do? I'm not sure that storing food. I think it's just a matter of what you can grab when you can grab it. But yeah, I'm not going to worry about hoarding stuff. And as long as you have enough beer, you're all right.
I think I would probably build some kind of like hammock on a cliffside and then fish, probably. Maybe chisel out a cave of some sort, like over the ocean, and then fish out my window.
I'm more concerned with the type of beer that he decided to grab. I mean, if it's something good, that's fine. But I mean, if we're talking like natural ice,
Oh
Yeah,
God,
that's what I'm
no,
stuck on too.
no.
or
Just let the maniacs take him then. At that point,
I'm seriously, I'm not even touching it. I'm just getting out of the car and, probably just gonna take some of the
Can you
sandwich meat
eat?
and rub it on me for
Can you eat,
attractant.
can you eat zombies?
Um, why not? They're flesh. You can cook
you would
them
have to
up.
cut off the rotten parts. I feel like.
Maybe. Yeah. I guess so. You can't eat rotten meat. I
Uh,
mean, if you cook
it
it long enough,
depends.
would you kill the germs and the bacteria?
I would
I don't
think.
know. I
It
don't
I mean,
depends
know.
on what kind of strain. If it's a virus or if it depends on if it's like a viral infection.
you you age a steak. I mean, you marble that. I mean, that's just the putrefaction going on. It may just be the tenderest cut. And I'm starting to see why we're all on some sort of watch list. I mean, it's
Well-deserved watch list.
Yes, talking about bloodborne pathogens and whatnot.
On the previous show, we talked about how having a lot of friends during a zombie apocalypse is a good idea, so that way you have zombie bait ready to go.
No, I disagree. I disagree. People would drag you down. I mean, I would never survive because I have children.
People
That would be
do
the end for
drag you
me.
down. People do drag you down. However, what you can do is try to manipulate them and become the leader of the group, and that way you can drag them down when it's time for them to go. You be like, "We got to run. You're the fattest one in the group. You're staying." And you shoot them on the leg or
I would
something.
have to be the leader so that I could execute people who are problems.
And probably the most important survival thing you could have would be gym shoes or good running shoes.
Yep, good running shoes.
Or better running shoes than your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Get
that's
those
it.
Nikes, man. Nike Airs out. Pump them up. No, I'm being super dated.
One last thing about your story. I'm going to say your name again. I'm going to butcher it. Robbe? Robbe.
Yeah, Robbe.
Robbe. Okay. All right. Do you realize how sexist your story is? Do you realize how sexist your story is?
Yeah, it took place in the early 60s.
Yeah, I read a post the other day on Facebook where like some woman was complaining about how violence towards women is a high towards men. Like men on women violence is high, and like what are you talking about? Like and like how the stories and the horror movies, they don't help, they perpetuate. I'm like, well, in this story, he just shoots his girlfriend, or he wasn't even a girlfriend, or she wasn't even a girlfriend. Man, but
But the point that I feel like in a lot of ways the point that she's a woman is irrelevant. Like she's the voice of like confliction and the voice of like trying to pull him in different directions, and so that kind of needs to be silenced by the end. And I feel like the fact that she's a woman is kind of irrelevant.
Right.
But I mean, it's
really is.
not, but it is.
But keep in mind that he killed a few of his friends early on. So,
But I mean, I have to say there is a lot of violence in women in general in the horror genre. I mean, it's true. It does happen.
There is, but you also have to take into account, the culture we're talking about, because I mean, we live in a culture where, violence towards men is to be expected. We don't think twice if you see 10 guys in a horror movie get their heads lopped off.
that is perfect. Yeah.
right.
And by the same token, though, that kind of violence, like man-on-man violence or women-on-man violence, is underreported too. Like man rape happens, but nobody reports it. I mean, a guy getting the shit beat out of him by his wife happens, but he doesn't say anything because it's not socially acceptable. I mean, it's not socially acceptable violence. So I mean, it happens. But like the rates for women serial killers are tiny compared to men. I mean, there just aren't a lot of them. So it makes sense that art would imitate life.
Well, there aren't a lot of them, or there aren't a lot of them that get caught. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I know plenty of women that are much more organized than me, and it would not surprise me, one day to see a couple of them on the news, snapped. There's 30 bodies in the crawl space of the house, and
See, I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna say the psychology of a woman, like generally speaking, we tend to be really emotional, but we tend to be very target oriented. Like the mass killings, I don't know. For me personally, like as a woman, I would kill. There are people I would kill, but there's not a mass group of people I would kill.
Mhm.
Wouldn't be a serial killer. I would just be a
So
murderer.
you wouldn't take part of the chainsaw hooker cult. I'm going somewhere with this. There's a movie that I checked out called the Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. I
No.
checked this out because of Robbe's title. I was like, okay, I gotta look at these other B movie titles and stuff. This came
Mm.
up, and it literally is about these Hollywood hookers that are obsessed with like this strange cult religion where they worship a chainsaw. And when you watch it, you're like, man, there's a bunch of nudity. So the guys watch it for like, I guess, the misogyny. The chicks watch it for the misandry because like all the hookers are like killing the men with chainsaws in like grotesque ways. I'm like, fuck, I got a boner and I'm disgusted. I don't know what to do here.
And you see, meanwhile, I'm just watching it for, the in-depth storytelling and character development.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's there. It's so there. Well, if it
I'm
wasn't for
with
the
I'm with you there.
but all right, Mr.
But I will say, just to chime in from an author standpoint, that you do see a lot fewer women represented. But I don't know that that's necessarily by design, because I know a lot of places do blind reads, and so it's like the best story gets picked. And if it happens to be a man, it's a man, and if it happens to be a woman, it's a woman. I mean, a lot of people are doing blind reads now. So I see all these comments like, "Oh, you don't have any women in your anthology," and I'm like, well, maybe all the stories the women submitted sucked. Like you just don't know. It has nothing to do with that they're women. And in some ways, I feel like authorship in general is irrelevant. Like who I am has no bearing on my story.
Yes, and that's excellent, because I mean, it really shouldn't have a bearing whether or not you're a man, a woman, a transgendered goldfish. I don't care if you wrote a story that gives me chills. It's an amazing story, and it shouldn't matter, what gender you are, what state you come from, any of that. If you're a good writer, you're a good writer.
It's all the
If you
story.
Definitely. And I honestly hate to
Yeah,
see
sure.
stuff like that. I mean, ladies, I'm not saying I'm all for
All right, I want to
feminism and I'm all for equality.
break real quick. No. You guys continue talking. I'm gonna take a quick break real
Yeah.
fast.
But
Okay.
I'm all for women's equality and things like that. I just feel like the best stories should always be on the top. And sometimes that's women and sometimes it's not. Now, have I been passed over because I'm a chick? Maybe. Just because I don't know if it's a style difference or a content difference. I mean, I have been passed on things where if I submitted it under a male pseudonym, I probably would have been accepted. But that's in publications that are blatantly sexist. And I feel like that's a lot more rare than people think it is. Like,
Yeah,
people
and
aren't,
yeah,
Go ahead.
and thankfully that's starting to become a lot more rare. There's a lot more women in all the genres, not just horror, but science fiction.
Mhm.
Well, I don't want to say serious, but more literary fiction, more the Hemingway style. There's a lot more women getting into mainstream publishing now because we don't have companies that are still based on old misogynistic models from the 50s and 60s. We've actually got people that are looking at a story for the value of the story itself,
Definitely.
not
Right.
the person writing it.
And I'm all about that. And that's why I love like blind reads, like people who just don't even care who you are. They just if your story is good, they take you, and if it's not, they don't. And that's my favorite kind. But also, I have to say, as a horror writer, I do predominantly feature women as my victims. It's often woman-on-woman violence, but it's just I find the dynamic more interesting because women are more vulnerable. So you have this ability to breed empathy for them in a way that you don't always have for men because they are so vulnerable initially.
Well, yeah, because your first reaction to a man in a horror story or in a movie, if he's running the same way a woman runs from Jason through the woods, if he's cowering, hiding from Michael Myers or Freddy, you're not saying to yourself, "Oh man, that poor guy. I can't believe he's just going to be slaughtered like this."
Yeah.
You're calling him a couple of names and laughing about the fact that he's not brave enough to stand up and
Yeah.
take this guy on.
But
Yeah,
I
you're
do
calling
think
him a
I do want
pussy,
to.
calling him a fucking coward. You're like, man, turn around and fight the motherfucker. The
Yeah,
other way, like you see the woman run, you're like,
bitch,
oh,
you
I'm
better
gonna say
run,
something.
bitch,
Yeah,
run.
run, bitch. Why are you wearing those high heels? Take them fucking off. What are you doing? What
And
are
I
you
will
doing? God
say,
damn it.
I've loved this trend in the last 5, 10 years in not just horror, but in all sorts of genre fiction of the women coming out and being their own heroes, not having
Yeah.
to fall back on it's a man coming to the rescue. You
Definitely.
know,
And
because I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, I
Yeah.
mean, just
Well, I was just
you
gonna say, but also in the same way, I like that we're also having like some shift towards like a sympathetic male character. I think a really good example of it is the movie 28 Days Later, the zombie movie. Have you guys seen it?
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, I mean, you start off with that naked scene, and it's super vulnerable. I mean, he's all alone, totally butt naked, emaciated. I mean, you really have like
Yeah.
a strong empathy for the vulnerability of the character immediately, and it makes you attached to him on like an emotional level. And then as he grows as a character, and like to varying degrees of badassery, then you have that like strong male character. But he does start with a very vulnerable mindset.
yeah, and with 28 Days Later, especially, you go through and you start out seeing him that weak, that confused, that frightened by everything around him, and you gradually build up and get this picture painted in your mind about this normal guy whose life was already just tragically wrecked. And then when it finally starts to get better, he finds his family's dead, he finds the whole world is just upside down, and
But
there's not
he
an
always,
answer.
yeah, but he always remains kind of cautiously optimistic, like about the future.
Hmm.
But I kind of like that. So I love like the strong female characters, but I also love like sympathetic male characters.
Well,
Yeah,
this is actually a pretty good segue for Sarah's story because I wouldn't really say she's necessarily a strong female character, but she is a female character, and I mean, I guess she's strong in the sense that she has borne the brunt of it sounds like loneliness for the longest time, and um, Sarah, when I received your story, oddly enough, I received another story that was very like it had another female. It was focused around a female character. I was like, an older lady too. I was like, wow, it's so strange how like these stories just kind of come in waves. Like, are
Hmm.
you guys calling each other up? Be like, hey, you gotta see your story too. You gotta see your story. It's weird. Like I get slasher stories, some other stuff, zombie stuff, Bigfoot stuff. Yes, Candied
Definitely.
was delightful in the sense that it was like watching her descend into like the madness that comes with like just being alone, and it makes me think of my grandma
Oh,
when
yeah.
she
It was kind of a
lost.
sad. It was kind of a
Yeah,
sad
it
story.
was very sad.
Well,
So
if for those of you, I don't know if you guys got a chance to read it because I wasn't necessarily going to be on today, but it's basically the story of an older woman and it's Halloween and she's getting ready to go out and she's going through the motions and costuming and making treats and that sort of business. And then you get to the end and you realize that she's actually planning to like mass murder a family so that they can all die together and she won't have to die alone by herself. And that's pretty much the gist of the story. So it's kind of
well,
sad.
yeah,
And she's a
she,
clown too, so kind of like mashup of the old lady clown fear.
oh yeah, creepy clowns.
Creepy
Gotta,
clowns.
yeah. But see, now I'm definitely gonna have to read your story, and I apologize. I just didn't get a chance to read it today before I got home and got on the show.
Oh, you're fine. I have a very stylistically dense kind of writing. It has a lot of detail, a lot of small detail, body language, the way people move, the way people pick up things, that sort of business. So it tends to be very stylistically dense, which not everybody likes, but I enjoy, obviously.
That that made the story as disturbing as it was.
Oh, thank you.
The details.
yeah. I mean,
So
as far as the descriptions go, I mean, I felt like, I mean, you did a great job on describing, what she goes through and the focusing on the loneliness and the frailty when she's going through it, and then when she's baking the recipe, she's like, she talks about how her husband's not there, how he would reach this and that, and you gotta kind of get this like that's a ritual that she would go through. But
Yeah,
then,
and that one, it's not based on a true story, but that part is based on a true story because every year my grandparents and I would make fudge, but fudge, it gets to be very viscous. It's very difficult once you start stirring, like, it goes from being very runny to being very difficult to stir. And my grandpa would always stir it for like the last 10 minutes because none of the women just had the upper body strength to do it. And so after he died, every time we make fudge, we just all kind of cry into the bowl when we get to that part. So that's kind of where I was at when I was describing like the making of the food.
Yeah, I was waiting for the doorbell to ring at the end of the story for people to be coming to her.
Yeah, that could easily have happened, yep.
so nothing else is based on a true story on this. So like, you didn't have a grandma that made some poison.
Nope, no,
cakes?
nothing like that. Although I did spend quite a bit of time trying to figure out what a lethal dose of antifreeze would be. Because it's very sweet, which is why it's dangerous for pets. You can't keep it around pets because often dogs will drink it and die because it's actually quite toxic, obviously.
Yeah.
But it tastes quite sweet, so that's, I did have to try to figure out the average adult versus body weight versus the amount necessary. And
I mean,
I don't know if it's actually close. So if you're listening out there and you're like, I've killed someone with antifreeze and that's not flying, then I apologize.
we're talking about a small.
It's not a surprisingly high amount that it would take to do it because, I mean, it just, the organs it affects, but again, morbid curiosity thing, not
Yes.
not an experience thing, but morbid curiosity. It's not a large amount of antifreeze or much of anything it takes to put somebody down.
In a small packet of lemon lime powder mix and a bottle of undiluted antifreeze.
It would not be an easy way to go, right?
So, yeah, lemon lime flavored. It's like a Sprite.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good.
It would be delicious. It would kill you deliciously.
It would. Man, you'd make some happy, like death cakes.
But again, like I said, I'm all about the vulnerability, and like the older folks are so vulnerable in a way that people often negate or don't understand. Like they're so like even just prey to their own emotions and loneliness, and like it's so difficult. And I feel like older characters are rarely seen as well. And I'm a huge fan of We Need Diverse books, so I wanted the character to represent kind of age and like the frailty of age.
Well, you definitely nailed that because I bought it from the get-go. I mean, I was like, okay, so.
And it's one of those things, like, a lot of people are kind of creeped out by old people, but you're not actually creeped out from old people. You're creeped out by your own mortality. Like, that's what it is. You see your death in them. So.
Yeah,
Old people in a clown costume is pretty creepy.
No, but seriously, I mean, what she said is very true. Like, well, Robbe, not to, I mean, like, I know you're older, but when I look at you, I don't see, like, death.
Not that old.
I see, like, maybe I can become like this guy. He seems like he is established in life. He seems like he's wise. No, but I look at my grandma, and I look at, like, she has Alzheimer's, right? And she's pretty much wasting away. Happily, though, like an old folks' home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing about elderly characters. You know, you base them on people. You can't help it. You base them on people you've known. You base some trait of their description or their behavior, and I think that's part of why writing an elderly character is so hard, because there's a lot of emotions that come up when you find this person. You know, I think to my grandparents, whenever I've written anybody that's older, you know, I think about their personalities and their effects on me. It puts a part of them into the story.
Yeah. And that was another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on in the story is how tossed aside some old folks are if they don't have a lot of family. I mean, your grandma is so lucky that she has family and there are people to care for her and she can be in a place where she can get the care that she needs. But a lot of older folks don't get that. If they don't have a big family or if their family doesn't care about them, they end up kind of forgotten, like my character, and then they just kind of cave in on themselves. They lose hope.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, if
I
it
know it's
wasn't for
super
the
heavy.
services, if it wasn't for the services that my grandma has, I mean, I don't know where she would be.
Yeah.
If she was left to her own devices, she would probably end up dead or something, like by accident. Some like not even baking any freeze cupcakes.
No.
Okay, but I mean, she's at this point where she doesn't even remember me, and like she's starting to forget like family members, direct family members, which is not a good sign, you know. Usually,
Yeah,
your
I'm
brain is
sorry.
deteriorating.
My condolences on that. I mean, it's just,
It is what it is. It's fine. But
yeah.
what you said is true. But the elderly people is that like I can't. It's hard for me to see my grandma at times when it's like that is a possible reality that could be in my future. Now I look at the silver lining and go, well, really, as a male and as the heart conditions of my family, I'm probably going to die at 70, so I'm probably not going to be in her situation, but that doesn't really bode well for my family either.
No. It's I mean, way to go looking at the positive side. You might not, might avoid the whole Alzheimer's, dementia thing. See, that's I think about that as well. My grandmother's still alive. She's in a very similar condition, but it was interesting too to see, you know, when they're in this state, the things that people experience as well. I know there were times that she's spoken of, you know, having conversations with her mother who passed away in the 70s, and, you know, as if she'd just seen her in the room 10 minutes ago. So there's a lot of seeing ghosts that comes with.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. But my grandmother's kind of in the opposite situation. She lives alone. My grandfather's deceased, but she's very stubborn and very independent, and she's mostly capable of taking care of herself. So we just go over once a day or twice a day and take her food, and then she's all right. But she has no concept of what time it is, what day it is. She'll call me at 3 in the morning sometimes and be like, "Hey, when are you coming over for lunch?" And I'll say, "Grandma, it's 3 in the morning. It's not 3 in the afternoon." But she has no idea what's going on ever, because no one, I mean, besides us, no one comes and sees her. She doesn't go outside. She just has no idea what's going on in the world. And so it's really hard to keep her grounded. She tracks her day by the 12, 6, and 11 o'clock news. And that's all she has besides when we come over. So, I don't know. Older folks, I'm a big fan of like older folks, like elderly rights. So everybody out there, elderly rights. Take care of your grandma. Call your grandma.
You got to take care of your elders. If not, then who else will? So they were just left to rot, left to wither away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a horror story in and of itself.
It really is. It really is.
The way that the elderly are cared for here and so many other places in the world, there's no real security for any of them.
Yeah.
No. Not. In fact, on the subject, I don't know if you had a chance to check out. Sometimes I do a sort of commentary on certain stories, where I just kind of give my take on it, and kind of it allows me to kind of explore the topic that's related to the story, and sometimes it may go to other places. But this last story I read, The Night We Aired the House, it kind of touched on that too, because it was about these two brothers that were. It actually sounded like they're looking for a place to lay down their mom, because she was gonna die. Not just any death, but she had a disease, like she was infected. And apparently there was a zombie virus thing going on, and she was infected, and she's slowly withering away. And they didn't just want to offer, because I mean it's family.
Yeah.
I mean, people joke and be like, "Man, if my friends or family, I'll shoot them with a shotgun, just do it." But when it comes down to it, are you really gonna do it? I mean, we're talking about the person who birthed you into life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, and like then you get into like the thought experiments of, there's a lot of psychological thought experiments about, if somebody's tied to a train track on one end and there's 5 people on the other hand. Have you heard this? Do you flip the switch? you save you save 5 people, but you kill 1 person versus doing nothing. I mean, there's so many thought experiments. But the one that always got me was like, you're in a room and you have to decide who to kill, like your mom or your sister. And then it's like, how could you do that? Like, obviously, I love my mom probably more, I guess. But then my mom would hate me if I killed my sister and not her. So then it's like, what do you do? I don't know. Like, I couldn't do it. Like, I have children, so I would definitely not survive the zombie apocalypse. Actually, if you want a true story,
throw the kids first.
Like, for a true story, like, there was a groundhog that got hit by a car in front of my house, and like he was still kind of like wiggling. So I went out with a shovel and I was gonna crush him, but then when I got out there, like I couldn't do it. Like, I legit couldn't do it. Like, he did die, but I couldn't smash him. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to deliver a killer blow, and then he would just suffer more. So it was like, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and that's it's hard to even get yourself in that mindset of, killing a small animal for a noble cause, let alone being put in that position to think of having to do that to, not only another human being, but somebody that you have this huge emotional attachment.
Yeah. Definitely.
Makes for a good story, though.
That's right.
The groundhog could have been cursed and got away.
Well, the psychology is always there, so the psychology is always there. But with the groundhog, he died pretty quickly, but it was hard.
Yeah.
Animals like that. I mean, there was an owl in my backyard that had a busted wing, a baby owl. I was like, well, where's this coming from? I was like, where's the mom owl? But the problem was that, we had dogs in the backyard. I separated them, but I was like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? Because, like, I can't bring it in. I'm not take it to a vet. Like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? So we put it on a tree, kind of low part of it. It's like, we'll just set it there for a while. Maybe the mom bird will come in and, I don't know, hopefully take care of it, because we didn't lay hands on it, so hopefully our sin's not on the bird.
Yeah, that's okay. Usually birds don't usually go, like, they don't have a super great sense of smell, so you're probably all right, actually, for the smell.
Well, the
bigger problem, oh, go ahead. I was going to tangent. Don't let me tangent. Finish your story.
Oh, I'll tangent too. I tangent all the fucking time. Okay, so the next day, I saw the bird again, but this time on the ground again. I'm like, what's his problem? Like, why does he keep on going to the ground? But it was getting picked at by crows. 3 crows were picking at it. It was alive. It was back into the fence, and it looked like it was fighting for its life. I'm like, fucking crows, get the fuck away! Like, what are y'all doing? I was like, what happened to your mom? Like you were gone the other day. Here I am talking to an owl, to a baby. I'm like, you were gone for a while, so I guess your mom picked you up or something. But now you're here again. I don't know what to do for you, because what can I do? He just freaked the fuck out, because I just picked it up, put it back on the tree. I was like, I don't know. I can't put it out of its misery. Nature will sort it out. And you know what? Is it alive or dead? I have no fucking idea. I have no clue.
Cat in a box.
Cat in a box.
Said nature will sort it out. I think that's probably the most terrifying reality of any horror story there is, because in the end, nature is going to.
Yeah. I'm a huge anime nerd. Do any of you guys happen to watch anime? I'm a big anime nerd. Have you seen it? Specifically, have you seen Attack on Titan?
Oh yeah.
Everyone who watches anime has seen it. That first part,
the part where the mom. I've seen that movie. I've seen the show. Sorry.
There you go. Well, the part in the show, in the actual anime, where the mom dies. You're with me, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope that you're with me. Anyway, the mom is crushed in a house, and so the zombie-esque giants are coming to kill her, pretty much. And she's like, "Save my children, leave me here." But then, as they go to leave, she's like, "Don't leave me," and she covers her mouth, like, so that she doesn't, like, scream. And, like, I loved that, because, like, a noble sacrifice almost isn't sad, like, but to have that, like, everybody wants to live, nobody wants to give their life for any reason, like, everything deserves life. Like, I felt like that was so much sadder. And so when you look at, like, yeah, nature does take its course, but it still, like, guts you inside.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was an ongoing theme in that show, that everybody wanted to live.
Yeah, that really, it was a tough one. It was brutal. Like I barely got through it because you can't attach yourself to anybody in that story.
I'm one of the types where if there was a zombie apocalypse, I like to think that I'm the type that would be kind of like not for a cliche, could go like the Rick sort of character would be like the guy who could make the tough calls, be like, I'm just gonna have to do it, just gonna have to do it. But it's hard. It's so hard, you know. Just,
It requires an amount of emotional detachment that our society doesn't allow for. Maybe we would grow to that point, like once you had witnessed the horrors and like everything kind of fell apart. But like at this point, like you can't even imagine it. Like that kind of emotional, psychological breakdown.
you can develop that. Well, I mean, there's people that have it. Obviously, sociopaths have that.
Hmm.
And people that are maybe socially awkward to some degree may have it because I kind of feel I have that. Like I could sever ties with people like crazy, but not really with direct family, you know.
Yeah.
But like I used to work in an RTC setting, a residential treatment center, and I'll be working with clients. But at any time, if a client were to like be violent towards him or herself or others, like I would have to like restrain and seclude if it came to that. If it came to that, I'm like, you know, I tell them, like, look, I don't want to have to treat you or to manhandle you like an animal. I don't want to do
Hmm.
that. But it's like you bring me to that point, like you leave me no options. Like if you're making their lives unsafe, you're threatening them. So you want to get mad at me. You were about to attack that person for what? For that? Because they stole your Pokemon cards or whatever? Okay, we can talk about that. Look, so now
Yeah.
you're in this cage because you went crazy.
But
You
maybe
went
that's
crazy.
what it is. Maybe it's what about what you're fighting for. Because like if it came to my like if it was my children, I would fuck you all up.
There
Like
you
I
go.
would rip your fucking faces off without even thinking about it.
So
Like
really, that question.
if my husband hit my kids, I'd beat him till he died. If a stranger, if the person I love the most in the world bit my kid or something, I would kill them. I would bash them until they stopped squirming. So I mean, maybe it's like what you're protecting.
So back to that question. If you're gonna choose, like, what was it? Your sister or your mom?
I'd pick my sister because my mom would hate me if I picked her, even though I would pick her, like in my heart. And like if it was between me and my kids, no problem. But if it was between my two kids, I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't pick between them.
See, that's good. Like, at least you have your kids and your priority right there. I mean, you hear about stories where like moms will like just do
Yeah,
horrible things.
fuck all of that. Fuck all
Yeah.
of that.
Which is like that confession story that was published today. Wow, you read that, you're like, this is the world's worst mom.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. Um, so Candy doesn't have any real life elements from the
Not really.
bottom.
It's bits and pieces, bits and pieces. Like I said, the story with my grandpa, but really, no, it's just fictitious.
Okay. Okay. So you weren't horrified during Halloween and had some old lady poison you or poison one of your friends or anything like that?
No, although it is a very popular theme, especially in the old lore. I mean, the razor blade apples have captivated us for
Yeah.
years. The
Did that
poison
even
candy.
ever happen? Like,
Yeah, I think it did once. I think there was like one apple I did read about that actually happened.
who the fuck does
But I
that?
don't think they actually bit into it. I think they were like, "What the fuck is this razor blade doing in my apple?" and then didn't eat it. So, but there were a couple of
Although
cases.
let me tell you,
There was a case like 5 years ago where someone poisoned some pixie sticks in order to specifically kill one child, but they poisoned them all so it didn't look like they were trying to kill their child.
Oh. So
Like
a
shit like that.
mass murder to cover up the murder.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
to cover up the true motive for the murder. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, we all check that shit now anyway. I mean, you look at the candy pretty closely to make sure it's
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah.
So it's a running theme. It's a popular theme. I'm
well,
not
it
trying to
doesn't.
monopolize you guys. Let me be like, shut up, girl. Like, shut your mouth. Let us
But
talk.
now we got time to kill and we got time to kind of bullshit real fast. Before we do, we gotta plug some stuff. I'm pretty sure you got some stuff to plug. Sarah, you already plugged you had a zombie themed
Right.
anthology.
It's from Far Horizons is
Far
the
Horizons.
publication. Yeah, they just finished their Kickstarter, but it's going to be going. I mean, I think it's released in the next couple of months. It's called Forever Hungry.
Forever Hungry.
Mhm.
So those are listening, and there'll be more listeners. There's usually more listeners like after this is aired because like it's been fluctuating. You don't really want to know the number.
Mhm.
But those that know, those are heard. And I'll put the link in the box below. I'll have to re-listen to it so I can get it down. Just say it one more time so I can write it. Yes, I don't write it down. What was
For
the
Far, so the publication is Far Horizons, and it's
Far
an e-mag.
Horizons?
Yeah. And the anthology is Forever Hungry.
Forever Hungry.
Or you can find stuff about me. It's, myname.com is all my stuff. Sarah A. Doebereiner.
Cool.
Cool.
All right. All right. You do anything else besides write?
I have a job, obviously, and things like that, but I do a little of everything. I'm super crafty. So, like, I just finished doing a bunch of necklaces for a Kickstarter for an anthology, and I do editing and stuff like that. But I also, I make soap, I needlepoint, I knit, I do, like, I love to make things. So, any kind of making stuff thing, I do that. I can make soap. So, zombie survival, come get your soap from me.
Good.
All
Yeah.
right. So
You're the go-to
you gotta keep your
person.
hygiene. You gotta keep your hygiene up.
That's
That's the one thing I think about whenever I watch like The Walking Dead. I'm like, okay. These people must stink like fucking
Oh,
shit.
yeah.
What's the last time they took a bath?
But it depends on how they're detected too. I mean, you wouldn't want a lot of perfume scents because predators would catch onto that pretty quickly, like even just wolves and bears. So you wouldn't want a strong smell anyway,
Yeah.
just to kind of sidestep. But yeah, so I do a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. I do a lot of kind of random stuff, and I don't just write in horror. I've written in sci-fi. I've written kids books. I've write a lot of different kinds of things. But
Diversify.
yeah, horror is kind of where my heart is. But that's like short fiction. You could do any genre. Like it doesn't have to be bound to one. So I like that about short fiction.
I kind of thought about diversifying Deadman's Tome, but it's kind of hard too since I put myself in a corner. So horror is what it is.
Well, and they always say you should have like a different pen name for each genre so people don't get confused or associate you with your other work. Because like I wouldn't want like a kid's, like a mom to be like, oh, she wrote this kid's book. What else? Oh my God, what is that?
I wrote
So.
about grandma that killed herself with a family.
Well, I do have more extreme stuff out, but I write under a pen name, so it's not directly associated with me. So
Well,
secret.
you know that I'm totally cool with extreme stuff, but
I'm all about it.
like, all right,
I'll send you something else.
cool.
Good.
All right, Mr. Gary L. Robbe,
Yeah.
what you got going on?
Just had a story published in Bewildering Stories this week.
Bewildering Stories.
Uh, I've got a lot of stuff out there. I've had a number of stuff already published, but you can just Google my name and you'll see what's up there.
Can you
What's
spell
out
it?
there.
Or is it on there? It's on the thing, right?
Yeah, Robbe.
Okay, thank you.
And do you do anything else? Do you have other projects?
No, I'm working on a novel that I've been working on for a number of years. It's in probably the 7th or 8th draft. It started out as a crime novel. It turned into a horror novel. It turned into a comedy horror novel. So we'll see where it goes.
Let's see where we're going. All right.
So watch for that in about a year.
All right. And Mr. Lee.
Well, if you Google my name, you're going to find a Korean pop star to begin with, so that's not going to help.
Yeah, I think I did. I googled Dan Lee, and it came in with an Asian dude that I can go to about getting a mortgage.
I'm totally jealous of his hair. That's the sad thing, man. But no, I've got an ebook on Amazon, 1,000 Little Deaths. It's sort of a supernatural detective story, and I'm currently working on a follow-up to it. And I also just started recently, actually this week, writing for Psycho Drive-In. They do,
Psycho Drive-In. What's that?
They do a lot of reviews, horror genre stuff, nerd culture, anything basically with kind of that drive-in B-movie sort of feel. And I actually just got my first.
I haven't seen Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers.
No, not yet. Not yet. But now that I know it exists, I'm
YouTube.
adding that to the list of to review.
You can watch it for free on YouTube.
Oh,
I literally I watched it before doing this this cast, this broadcast. And I was like, I wonder if I could find this. Not only is it on YouTube, but it has full frontal nudity, and it's on YouTube. I'm like, wow. And I was so close to like posting this, but I was like, no. Because once people realize what this is, people are gonna flag it. I mean, I'm talking about like this breast. You see a little bit of bush. You see ass. I mean, that's like the winning qualities of that movie. That and seeing the chicks cut down the people with the chainsaws.
Well, I mean, talking about that, they've got almost everything that Troma Studios has ever released on YouTube.
Oh,
I mean, literally, Toxic Avenger, Sergeant Kabuki Man. I mean, just all sorts of god awful train wreck B movies.
You know what they say? What is it? Breasts, boobs, and blood.
That is kind of the combination. And Sarah, as a woman, how do you feel about that?
I have mixed feelings. It kind of depends. Honestly, I'm not necessarily against it. I have some bad history with the B horror and stuff like that. Like not me personally, but friends of mine who have been treated poorly and who have been, experienced problems. And so I have kind of a distaste in that regard. But I don't have a problem. Like I'm not prudish or anything. I don't have a problem with the nudity necessarily, even as a selling device.
If there was, I don't mean to. And I'm so rude. I'm trying to interject and mansplain real fast. Sorry, but if there was more dick in there, would that be okay? Like
I don't even know that it's necessarily that. Like I think what it is, and this is where I'm coming from. I think that like it's okay, it's socially acceptable for a woman to appreciate another woman's body. You look at it and you're supposed to say, "Oh, boobs, I have those. That's fine." But it's not okay for men to appreciate other male nudity. Because it's not a socially acceptable thing. You don't see a dick and you're like, oh, look, some dick. That's fine. I have a dick. Whatever. Like guys tend to be like socially. They tend to be socially. They're socially pressured to be put off by it. Like they're socially pressured to be put off by the sight of.
At the same time, so it's like Robin Williams said. I mean, do you watch porn? Well, do you want to see a guy with a limp little thing up there? No, I want a big fit. It's you don't. I'm so glad that I've got like long time family friends that are listening to me tonight talk about this. I'm sure I'm going to get all sorts of angry phone calls, and I can't wait. It's going to be hilarious.
But I mean, it sells. Sex sells. I mean, it does, I don't have a problem with it necessarily. I mean, it works.
And as a publisher, anytime there's any sort of avenue that I can use, any sort of angle I can use to kind of help, kind of get attention to the stories. Oh, you bet your ass when you use it. Like there's a story where, yeah. I mean, if there's some sort of sexuality in the story, I'd be like, this, that. There's some sort of murder. Oh, people. If it's murder, crime, sex, violence, that stuff sells. That stuff is easy. People understand that. They get that.
But I will say too, like in the visual sphere is the only sphere that you get a lot of judgment for that. Like I could write sex all day long, and people aren't going to say that I am a person, am immoral. Like I'm different from my characters. But an artist, like an actress who drops trowel, like she's automatically a whore. Like you get a different kind of judgment for a visual sphere that I think is unfair. Like I could write something really lewd, but people won't say it reflects on me. But for some reason it reflects on them when they're acting out a character. It's like, no.
That is like, okay, I'm kind of interested in doing like a review on like the movie I mentioned, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. Because it's like, yeah, a lot of chicks drop trowel in that. And I was like, wow, they're just like just doing it. But they're also killing the dudes when they do it. Like it's like
an empowering kind of a.
Yeah. But it was so cheesy in every other way. Yes, of course it was. But you're right. It is in that visual field that you get that.
Yeah, you get a lot of judgment, and like the actresses get a lot of judgment, and they get a lot of things that are just really inappropriate for a professional. And it's like these women are professional, and they deserve respect. Like yeah, they're nude, but they deserve that respect.
You support the patriarchy. You're showing your breasts so that their dicks get hard. You're supporting the patriarchy. That's so crazy.
And it's
It is
such a
nuts.
bullshit thing because there's no reason. You're sitting there, they're portraying a character. This is not them personally. You
Exactly.
know, this is the character that was written for this story. They are bringing what was on the page to life, you know, and that's like somebody getting pissed off and calling the cops on an actor who did one of the reenactments on America's Most Wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be mad at that's what they do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't
So if it
expect the
calls
actor
for,
to
you know,
be.
if it
Okay.
calls for everybody getting
Well, we're missing
no
some
trail
frames
off
there.
sometimes.
Yeah, we're kind of breaking up.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. And I mean, you don't expect the actor to be a dragon. You don't expect the actor to be a lawyer. You don't expect the actor to be a math genius. But for some reason, you expect the actress to be a whore. It's like, I don't understand that. Like, there's this weird disconnect. So I support nudity in film, but I think that there's often this kind of judgment that comes with
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I could
And
tell you,
it's
as someone,
unfair.
and this might come from a different angle, as someone who's been a long time porn connoisseur, I even disconnect that. Like, those ladies that do that professionally, what they do in their private life, I don't know. But I do know what they
Hmm.
do on the set. That's all manufactured. That's
Yeah.
all like, it's a whole routine. It's it's a
But also, I
nothing
mean,
about that is organic.
and also, I mean, like, there's this sense, there's often this kind of dehumanization that's happening, and people feel like they can say whatever they want to them, or they can treat them like pieces of meat. And, like, a lot of people comment on them, like their weight, or their
But you
breasts, or their
can't.
bush, and
You're
stuff like
treating
that. And,
you're
like,
treating another
what?
human. Oh, sorry. Oh man, I
Yeah,
keep it.
like they are a person. Like, they are a person just like anybody else. And, like, a lot of people are like, oh, there's too much bush, and, like, everybody has to be shaved or
Yeah,
whatever. And I'm like, everybody needs to look like a
crazy. Like,
15-year-old girl. Like, I don't know. I'm a big, like, let's have some hair fan, but I mean, whatever.
oh, then you would totally love the movie I mentioned. But here's what I'm
Because, like,
saying.
why not a little bush? I mean, I don't get it why everybody has to be clean shaven, because then you look like.
Like, you haven't reached puberty yet. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, there. It pushes it into a. It's not even these. It's not the actors and actresses. It's not the writers and directors and filmmakers that are portraying and making these people a piece of meat, like you said. It's skinny enough. You know, it must be a whore because she took off her clothes on screen. You know, it's not anybody making the films, making the art that is dehumanizing. It's the audience that
Yep,
feels
it's
that
the
compulsion.
fans. Yeah, it's the fans that are doing it. The fans are looking at it and they're being like, oh, hey, yeah, she's just a piece of meat. She's a nice rack or whatever. Like, it's the fans that do it. And that's the problem. So, I mean, like, do I have a problem with nudity in film? No, I don't. But I have a problem with the way some of them ladies get treated.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
I understand that. I mean, like like back in the day with like Betty Page, like all that stuff was like. I mean, what it made it seem was like it was all staged. Like it wasn't actually real like brutality going on. It was just like
Hmm.
it was still images and maybe some videos, but it was all like there was like a
Yeah.
understanding. This day, I mean, I don't know what's going on in the bondage scene. You can see some hardcore stuff, and like I don't know. Sometimes it's like, well, what's going on here?
Yeah,
Is there a
some
safe word? What's
I
going
want
on?
to kind of end by saying too, like, not necessarily end, but I do want to say that, like, I have seen movies and read stories that I felt did not have artistic merit, that were
Yeah,
solely for the purpose of titillating, and they did not have artistic merit. And I think
and
that's where a lot of, like, the commentary comes in, where you're like, there is no story here, or like the writing is super bad, and then you're like, this is ridiculous. It's literally just like spank bank material. It's not even trying to be a story. So, like, some
and
of those
That
things,
shouldn't
they
be
don't
supported.
have.
are you ready to sling shit? Any of that on Deadman's Tome? And who?
No.
Okay, good. We don't have that
Well,
yet.
nothing that I have read. I mean, I feel like everything that
I
I
don't
have
think.
read
I don't
had
think so.
artistic merit.
I don't think so. I think the worst thing we have is a story called Dinner Time, and it's a guy. It sounds really, if you boil it down, it's not really just about a guy asking for a blowjob. There's more to it than that. But and I told my wife that she's like, "Why did you approve that story?" I'm like, "You don't understand. there's more to it than that. Like, it's about the give and take, and she's not giving any. She's taking it. But then again, he was a playing asshole, and she crippled him because he was a playing asshole, and now she owns his life.
There you go. The psychology is there. I mean, the psychology is definitely there.
Okay.
Whether or not that's why people read it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, because I know I said like 11:30 would probably be the end time, but so Robbe,
Yes.
when your story, when I read it, I was like, man, this guy must have been on the influence of drugs and wrote this.
No drugs.
No drugs, no
No.
alcohol, no sipping.
Alcohol could have been there, but no drugs.
Okay. Fuck.
But I was out of that generation, so we'll leave it at that.
All right. So I guess we don't really explore that, but maybe later on we can explore drugs and alcohol and writing and stuff. I know it's about that time, but I enjoyed my time with you guys. It's great. Great.
It was nice meeting you.
It was nice meeting all of you.
The problem with these live shows is that I feel like around this time I want to extend it and just go on off tangents with you guys and come up with all sorts of crazy material that I can use to like make some clickbait links on YouTube, pretty much. But we covered a lot. I mean, we got 3 different authors here, 3 different stories. Wow, it is a lot of material, and
It really is. So I guess the kind of ending theme should be prepare for the zombie apocalypse and call your grandma.
yeah, to prepare for the zombie apocalypse, you need to get a good case of beer, and please don't follow what's in 1963.
Yeah.
I don't really know how well a Ford Galaxy is going to really keep you alive, but according to Gary, it's
in the trunk.
Yep.
yeah, and also, hey, Robbe, how come he was storing like the maniacs in his trunk? Like, why? Why?
What? He didn't want to be alone.
So he would like pop up the trunk and like move their mouths, be like, "Hey, I'm still alive." Blah blah blah. He's a fucking maniac. He is the maniac in the story.
He's a maniac.
Yeah. I kind of get a whole Ryan Reynolds voices sort of thought on that one. You know, maybe they're not moving, maybe they're not talking, but they are to him.
Yeah.
Oh,
in like a Sin
Deadpool
City
first.
kind of. Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry, Sarah. I know I cut you off.
No,
We're
you're fine. I
talking
was
at the
just
same
saying, like, it
time.
reminded me of that scene in Sin City where he's talking to the dead guy.
Yeah, it did. Okay, before we part ways, I think we covered in the beginning, but like, what are some things you dig about Deadman's Tome?
You put stuff out there that other people don't want to put or are afraid to put out.
All right, that's awesome.
I love to read, so I'm kind of like anything. I'm always looking for new content. Oh, sorry.
Sarah's a woman. She can go.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying that I love content, so I'm always looking for like good quality content, and like I love stories that are easily digestible, so I can read them like after the kids are asleep or during nap time or as I'm having my morning coffee. I mean, I love short stories, so I love the format.
That's good. And the more you share, the more people see, the better for all, and all that stuff. I think all y'all guys know that. And Dan, what's your take?
It's a great and it's definitely with enough advertising and plugging it out there to people from you and of course from all of us, the authors. It's going to become a haven. These extremely small sort of horrors that from everything I've read and from what I intend to read with Candied and what I'll definitely read again from and I'm sorry, I can't, Mr. Robbe, remember the full title of your story, Beyond the Ford Galaxy. But definitely some enjoyment value that can come from reading some of these stories more than once too.
Mhm.
Man, that's awesome. And
And you
Robbe,
do put out, you have a lot of quality fiction on your site. You really
thanks.
do.
Well, last thing I'll say to you guys is I'm doing a Patreon now where people can like donate $1, at least $1, maybe become a Patreon. But see, to do that, it's like, what am I going to give them in return? Something exclusive, right? Some sort of something additional, some other story, some other content. But I don't want to make any of your content like exclusive to where it kind of prevents other people from reading it. You know?
Mhm.
So I'm thinking about some things. I'll explore some things, maybe like a private show, kind of like this, what we're doing, but more, maybe not so much about your stories. Maybe we could shoot the shit over other people's stories and those stuff. Go off topic, here have tangents, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Maybe arrange some one-on-ones for people that donate a certain amount to you for one-on-ones with some of their favorite authors, if it can be arranged.
Oh,
You
Yeah,
know,
definitely. That
you
can always
could
be arranged.
yeah, you could even do like critiques like other writers. Like I'd be happy to take a critique or two a month if somebody wanted to send me a story and I could help them edit or talk through it.
Oh,
Same
that'd be
here.
sweet. That'd be sweet.
yeah.
All right. Well, I will. That information's out there. It's on the site. It's on. It's going to be in links on the page with this video, and also in the description box below. But with that said, all right. It's been great. It's been great with you guys and Sarah.
Yeah. Great. Thanks. Keep it up.
Thank
Keep up the
you.
good work.
I
Thank
will.
y'all.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks. Bye.